incrementalization. It's the same old story that they use every time that they want to switch out something. Is they slowly introduce it, and they don't bank on people like me doing, reading peer science journals, and they bank on people just looking at the mainstream media, never doing their homework.
Hey everyone, I hope that you're doing well. The reason why I'm making this video today is because I'd like to share with you my experience with looking for the truth. And by that I mean looking for the real meaning and the real reason why we exist and what put us on this earth. Now I'm going to be honest, I've shot a video before this talking about the same subject, except I had 3 pages worth of notes to trigger thoughts that I needed to share with you throughout the story, because every single bit of information and detail was important to the big picture so that you really understand how deep it went and how extensive my research and my investigation was, and for you to really see that my experience is not one of just petty subjectivity and latching on to anything new that came my way. Nowadays, all of these different bits of news here and there coming out about the Pentagon releasing official footage about UFOs. You have Israeli government talking about how aliens are real and they've existed for a long time. They've been among us, but humanity is not ready for them to disclose that information. They're not ready to listen to that information, actually. And how about Donald Trump build this Space Force branch of the Air Force, as if we need to protect ourselves from something that's coming from outer space. There's been a lot of talk about aliens and UFOs, and sightings in New York City have increased by 283%. And so I feel like the whole of humanity is about to be deceived very soon. And so I'm making this video to try to make sure that as many people as possible don't get deceived and still latch on to the truth, because at the end of the day, like they say, the truth sets you free. And if we are all deceived, like most of us have been for the longest time in existence and in history, we really are slaves, and we have been slaves to whatever doctrine they made us believe, into whatever lifestyle they've instilled on us because of the belief that it came out of. But anyway, the truth sets you free. Knowing what is attacking you and what is real and what is not is really going to dictate the rest of your lives.
Cosmicism is cosmic indifference. So what he was saying is basically, yes, there are these massively intelligent entities out there, but they're not good, they're not evil. They just don't give a shit about you even in the slightest. The same way that you don't care about an ant is the same way they're not going to care about you. And these things that we're summoning into the world now are not demons, they're not evil. The same way that you don't care about an ant is the same way they're not going to care about you. And these things that we're summoning into the world now are not demons, they're not evil, but they're more like the Lovecraftian great old ones. There are entities that are not necessarily going to be aligned with what we want. Aligned with what we want. So this transition is really, really massively important for our entire species to navigate. And going back to that thing that Sam Harris was saying, nobody is paying attention. This thing is happening in the background while people bicker about politics and what's going to be in the healthcare plan in the US. And underneath it all is this rising tsunami that, if we're not careful, is going to wipe us all out.
How much clearer do you need it to be said? This is the guy that started D-Wave. This is the man that's given us a high-speed internet connection to other dimensional beings. He is saying it. Here it is. It couldn't be any clearer. I don't know what else to tell you.
So, on that pleasant note, we're hiring people to try to make something like this happen. Of course, you know, this is a very difficult project, of course, and I'm kind of a little bit tongue-in-cheek about all this, like, you know, how bad things are, because it's not really like that. You know, technology is a double-edged sword, even something like this. It's agnostic, it depends who wields it. If you want to have a say in how all this goes down, you can't sit on the sidelines. If you want to have a say.
And if you've opened your eyes to 2020 at all, you've seen that there have been so many, and there's been an insane amount of just natural catastrophes, crises in all sorts of areas, just total chaos. And if you go into the occult, if you go into masonry, you would see that their motto is creating order out of chaos. And so there's, of course, a lot of talk about the Illuminati, the Freemasons, which are basically the same group following the same entity, running the world and the 1% and everything like that. Most of that is true. I promise you that most of it is true. However, let's say that there are 33 degrees or 33 titles within the Masonry or the Freemasons, or the Illuminati. Now, the thing is that only the first 2 or 3 on top actually know who they serve and what the plan is. Everybody else underneath that is just a pawn that is misinformed and used to their advantage in order to disperse this kind of doctrine and information that they're trying to instill in the world. So I was in a place about a few years ago where I was completely depressed and I was looking for truth. A thought hit my mind. I was depressed because of all the things that had shut off in my face. My life was going well. I was self-sufficient, self-dependent, away from my family. I was doing everything that I wanted to do. And then all of my plans just fell to the ground and there was no way out and I didn't have $20 to my name. And that question hit me. I was like, okay, so why are there so many different religions? Why have we existed for such a long time and yet we don't really know what the truth is? How is that even possible? How are there so many different doctrines and so many different explanations and reasons to why we exist? And so the investigation began. I needed to find beauty behind this life. I needed to find meaning. There was nothing I was looking forward to. There's nothing I would wake up happily to. I was going through depression, and the alternative was taking my life away. And that wasn't an option that I was willing to entertain right away before I did some investigation first. And so I went down this path. So basically I went into different areas of philosophy, of religion, of New Age movements, of just anything that basically explains our reality. And I would look at alternative media and I would look at our history just talked about from a different perspective, because let's face it, for us to look at magnificent structures worldwide and not in just one side of the world, worldwide, that have inexplicable designs and capability, and to date them so far back to maybe 2,000, 4,000, 10,000 years ago, like Göbekli Tepe, for example, in Turkey. We're talking about the Egyptian pyramids in Giza. We're talking about the Sphinx. We're talking about ziggurats and pyramids in the Aztec world and ancient Chinese cultures underwater. I mean, there's so much information out there, and what they teach us in school, what's written in the books, and what's available just makes it seem so impossible to understand. And if we are really more advanced than they were, 2,000, 4,000, 6,000 years ago, then we can understand that. Not only can we understand what happened, we can replicate it and we can be better. But obviously we are not. And so that was a question, like, why is that not understood? And another question is, if those civilizations were great enough to understand life, physics, mathematics, the star systems, all the things that we are now coming to discover, if they understood all of them and manipulated them with such dexterity and beauty, and we can't do that now, how is that even possible if they did not have the tools that we possess now, or the knowledge, or so we think? So I was like, there's something fishy going on there, and I further investigated. Now I had gone into, like I said, so many different areas of explanations of life. Like even going back to Zoroastrians, we're talking about Tibetan, we're talking about Christianity, Islam, Judaism. There was this whole New Age movement with the whole synchronicity. There's the channeling of intergalactic entities. There's so many different things that I'd visited. I'm just going to read them to you real quick. This whole physics of consciousness. I met a witch that gave me a book about quantum physics and witchcraft. The sacred geometry, alchemy, tarot cards, crystals, astrology, numerology. We're talking about Southern American, Eastern, conventional, Hebrew, Pythagorean, Aztec. I went into angelic science, witchcraft, vampirism, the enneagram, psychological archetypes, galactic families, like I'd already mentioned, interplanetary species, masonry teachings by like Manly P. Hall, 33-degree Masons. Just really went deep into that and tried to understand it. Different religions, ancient civilizations, Atlanteans, Egyptians, Sumerians, Southern Americans, Hindi, Chinese, Zoroastrians. All sorts of God frequencies and cymatics, and how you can heal through sound and the vibrations, right? I went into these God drugs that they called peyote, ayahuasca. I tried some DMT, some psychedelics, the power of words and affirmations, the belief system, and how your belief system is responsible for what you can really achieve. I started researching indigo children, energy work. We're talking about Reiki, seeing auras, chakra healing, all sorts of things. I listened to this guy channeling an entity called Cryon, talking about the aliens that seeded this life and this civilization, reincarnation, light workers, old souls, Akashic records, karmic system, consciousness evolution. I mean, the whole 9 yards, and the list goes on and on and on. I'm not going to bore you with it, but trust me, I've looked into all of that. All of it. And I didn't just look into it. I didn't just peek through and take a quick look and be like, nope, not for me. I really tried all of it. And I really tried to connect with whatever higher force any of those things claim to have. And I really was looking for a connection. I just didn't want to exist without knowing why I'm here, without knowing who put me here, and without trying to connect to that source that so many different people and so many different religions and doctrines claim to connect with. So I've always been a very intuitive person. I've always been very empathic, and I felt like I was able to do this. I was like, I want to do this. And if there's somebody who's capable of connecting with their higher self, their creator, their God, their Jesus, their whatever, I would be able to do it. Now, I got to be honest. Christianity is something that I was brought up in. But because I was brought up in this Christian household, Christianity and Jesus were the last thing that I ever tried to actually connect with. And so I went into all these things. Like I said, tried witchcraft. I tried connecting with my higher self. I tried connecting with these different interplanetary species and aliens. I really went all out. Everything I've tried. And it was an interesting experience, but the reason why I'm making this video is because I want to tell you that I thought that I had found myself. I thought that I was onto something much bigger than what society believes. I thought that all of these different theories and doctrines held a piece to the puzzle. And so by visiting all of them and immersing myself into all of them, I would be able to put that puzzle together thinking that the truth is not going to lie in just one area, that it's going to take understanding all of these things and combining them to really understand the big picture, which was the truth that held all the pieces of the puzzle. Although I was thinking that I was finding nuggets of truth here and there that I could put together, it felt like they were deceiving me, like they were just frivolous, time-wasting doctrines that would make my life miserable. Quite honestly, my life turned miserable. I became very self-serving. My heart grew cold. The focus was always about me. I couldn't connect with people anymore because I looked at them as beneath me, as people who weren't worthy of my time because they weren't into these things, they weren't open to listening to them, etc., because they weren't trying to seek the truth. Whatever it was, I turned into a different person, and I feel like the zest for life that I had in me was lost. I felt like I was losing myself doing this, although I was doing it for a good reason, right? I was doing it to find myself rather than to lose myself. And I was like, okay. And then one day I stumbled upon this video that had talked about something that I knew about Christianity but haven't considered. And it was the fact that all of this witchcraft, knowledge, study of crystals, divination methods, all of these things are from the devil, right? And they're from the devil, and they're made to keep you as far away from God. But most importantly, it's about not worshiping God, but worshiping yourself. You're just really deceiving yourself, thinking that, oh, we are the physical manifestation of God, who is the Spirit, right? And that is upsetting because you're no longer serving your God, you're serving yourself, and you're trying to break away from these physical confines that you are born in, right? Like you are born in a 3D world where you can't fly, where you can't run faster than however many miles per hour, right? We have limitations existing in this physical world. And so trying to break away from them is something that is honestly ridiculous. And that's what the whole New Age movement is about. It's always about trying to crack the code and trying to take a shortcut to becoming a god, right? And in this New Age, there was always claims about Buddha, claims about all these different people who had achieved self-mastery and found the God within them, and Jesus was a part of them. Now, I've gone through all of that, and although they kept this New Age movement, all these channeling and all these sources kept saying that the world is getting better, we're being guided towards mass awakening, there are a lot of people that are, just improving altogether, life will be soon unrecognizable, soon children will be born and just be able to speak without having to learn lessons that they had learned in past lives, that we're just gonna evolve to the next phase. And it was all just so exciting and beautiful as a thought, but at the same time I was looking at society and I was seeing all of these things manifesting, right? All of these different plans for humanity that are real, hidden from the mainstream media and public, but nevertheless real. I was like, okay, damn, if this is what they have cooking for us, and this New Age teaches you to just not be complacent, but not give any mind to it and just focus on creating beautiful energy that's going to add to the energy of this world, blah, blah, blah. Like, it just made me feel like I should not partake in the responsibility for this world. Like I was not, my effort, my contribution, my awareness, my time was not needed, or anybody else's as a matter of fact, to make this world a better place. All we had to do is just be energetically good and have love in our hearts and have our light shine, and however they speak about it. So what I was seeing is that, yep, there's the gene manipulation that is right around the corner with CRISPR. There is the hybridization of different creatures, there's just so much going on that they're not talking about in the news, that is not on Instagram, that is not on Facebook or TikTok or YouTube. Well, it is on YouTube, but you have to know what you're looking for. But there's so much news out there that's not being broadcast, right? It's out there. They're not hiding it from you. It's for the public to find, but you have to find it. And so I started looking in all these places that people are not looking intentionally, or where they're not waiting for other people to feed it to them, right? With this hype and money-making schemes and scams and all this BS. And I started finding that there's gene manipulation, there's quantum computers, artificial intelligence is all of a sudden emerged and fully operable and evolving, right? And talks about how it's going to overtake us, and the Neuralink chips with Elon Musk, and talks about escaping to Mars because this planet's going to be destroyed. Looking at Netflix and seeing how all these different dystopian movies are coming out, and the theme has become very dark, and it's all about witchcraft, and it's all about self-servience and just playing gods, right? It just became obnoxiously obvious. They're trying to corrupt this humanity. And that video that I told you that I stumbled upon, talking about how Satan and his fallen angels had given all this information to mankind to corrupt them, I remembered that the flood came in the Bible, and it came because of all this corruption, and to wipe it off, because mankind is not supposed to have that sacred knowledge. Anyway, so quantum computers, 5G, artificial intelligence, there's a poisoning and a domination of all the resources that we have, of nutrition, there's corruption of the minds, the education is being dumbed down. What is it called? Disney Channel is now teaching kids to be complete holes and bots and just children with attitude and a sense of rebellion like no other, and parents are too tired and too distracted and too exhausted from this lifestyle that we have to live to survive in order to try to get a hold and a grip on their children. And so things are flinging out of control, and I was like, damn, there's so much potential, but it's going so far south that we might not be able to recuperate, and it's crazy. 13-year-olds now acting like they're 30, they're dressing like they're 30, they're thinking about sex, they're passing out condoms to 7th, 8th graders in schools. I mean, it's a fucking shit show out there, and I couldn't believe that was the reality that we're living in, right? What happened to the innocence? What happened to the beauty and the simplicity of life that we existed in before all this technology really brainwashed us and took us away from the beauty of life and just being able to appreciate a sunset, rather than to just take a picture of it and then feel antsy and wanting to walk away from it because we just have a picture and that's it. It's such a ridiculous time that we exist in. Anyway, there's a lot of pride, there's a lot of ego, and there's so much ignorance out there, and there's a celebration of ignorance and of stupidity, and it's become funny when it's actually sad. It's really sad. There's a big effort to social engineer.
When so many in the media are reporting the same stories, promulgating the same narratives, relying on the same sources, even using the same phrases. I mean, think of it. There are literally thousands of legitimate news stories that could be reported in a given day, and an infinite number of ways to report them. When everybody's on the same page, it might be the result of an organized campaign.
Hi, I'm Fox San Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our Treasure Valley communities, the El Paso, Las Cruces communities, Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But
plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and false
news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish fake stories without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 There's a lot of cultic activity, a lot of symbolism, correlation with dates and numbers. There's a lot of preemptive programming. Prime example is The Simpsons with all their predictions in their TV shows. I mean, come on, that just tells you that whatever is coming has been prepared for so long, and all the technology that we're now using were technologies that were science fiction back in the day in the 60s, 70s, 80s TV shows. And if you ask your ancestors, they used to watch and be like, wow, imagine life would be like this, and then all of a sudden it's like that. So there's a lot of preemptive programming, and if you're looking at Netflix, you're like, what the fuck are they preparing us for? Anyway, The Simpsons were right about an obnoxious amount of things. Anyway, so that's kind of why I'm talking about all this, because I want to make sure that when the cherry is put on top of that cake that they've been building for us, that you are aware of the reality of things. All right, preemptive programming, there's the game of consent, right? They don't do anything without taking your consent. Everything that we've lived so far and that has come our way is something that they've warned us about, but we were too distracted and too careless and labeled it as conspiracy theories or as BS to actually entertain that idea and say yes or no to it. And so by giving our silence, we gave our consent. Addictions are running rampant. I mean, you see 12, 13-year-olds going into Starbucks drinking coffee. Babies cry if you take the iPad or the phone away from them. Children are not developing properly because if adults can't handle their addictions, you think children will be able to? And we're addicted to sugar, we're addicted to technology, to the internet, we're addicted to social gratification like likes and comments and all this BS. We're addicted to cigarettes, we're addicted to weed, drugs. We're addicted to so many different things, and it is not even funny. Like, human beings cannot operate properly without drinking their cup of joe every day. They can't operate properly without smoking a joint before they go to work. They can't operate properly without having to succumb to all these different substances or whatever they are that they are addicted to. And they can't live properly, they can't find real joy. And you know, an addict, they keep searching for more and more and more and more and more, because whatever they're used to, whatever made them happy is not enough anymore at some point. And so that's something we're dealing with. Now, we're seeing marketing, they're selling convenience at a crazy rate. They really want everybody to stay home, and that was even before Corona. From the comfort of your home, don't leave your couch and buy this car now. It'll be delivered right to your doorstep, blah, 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 blah. Why? Why do you want people to be lazy pigs, lazy who put on so much weight and eat junk food and don't take care of their health and then buy all these pharmaceutical medications from you? Like, what? Are human beings that stupid these days to not see how we're being guided and how we're being programmed? Like, come on, guys, you know you're sponges. As soon as you grow up, you're going to have the dialect, the language, the behavior, the hand gestures, the movements of the people surrounding you. There's an incline in lethargy. Everybody's becoming so lazy. There are so many psychological problems emerging. There's an increase in autism like never seen before. Females are less nurturing. Males are less resistant. I mean, there's a total inversion of roles in society, and I don't know if you've noticed, but who's the master of inversion? Who's the master of perversion? Who takes everything God says and does and flips it around? Who is the cross upside down? You answer that. A crazy amount of consumerism. Like, come on, people, we have oceans filled with plastics.
Plastic is wonderful because it's durable, and plastic is terrible because it is durable. Almost every piece of plastic ever made is still on the planet in some form or another. Plastic production globally this year is expected to be more than 300 million tonnes.
Half of which we'll use just once and then throw away. By 2050, when the population explodes to almost 10 billion people, it's expected that plastic production will triple. The problem with that is that today only a fraction of the plastic that we produce is recycled. The rest ends up in our environment, and it's coating our land and our oceans like a disease.
Yeah, the stomach is very, very full, and if we look here, there's some very dark pieces, some very light white pieces, and if you see, you know, as I push on this, it's absolutely rigid, completely full of plastic all the way up.
Oh, look at that.
Absolutely no doubt that this bird died as a result of that plastic. That is literally a gut full of plastic. It's quite alarming, isn't it?
Oh, it's awful.
Range of plastic types and colours. We've got everything from the blues and the reds
His
to the
stomach's just filled with it. Big pieces too.
big
Like
sharp
heavy.
pieces.
Oh wow, look at the size of that big black piece.
That is an enormous piece of plastic.
Unbelievable.
Really is quite an overwhelming thing. I do have some pretty rough days, have to go home and really wrap my mind around where do we go from here.
As a Pacific Islander, I know that the ocean is in deep trouble. The very authoritative prediction shows that by the year 2050, there'll be as much plastic as there is fish in the ocean by weight. Every country uses plastic. We need to start rationalizing that. We need to think about reuse of plastic, single-use plastic. It's got to be on its way out. And you know, plastic shopping bags are a good example of that. Your family does not need to use them. Take a cloth bag with you when you go shopping and put your shopping in there.
Oceans filled with plastics. Fish you can't eat anymore. Their guts are filled with garbage. Their skin, their meat has microplastics in them. And we're eating this stuff. There's pollutants all over in the air. There's free technology, there's free electricity, there's free, unlimited everything that doesn't have to pollute the earth. But it breaks the people on top that are now making most of the money and running the world, so they don't want to switch to something clean because they want to keep taking advantage of the situation. We keep allowing it, we keep contributing to it. All these technologies that have emerged, we just haven't funded, we haven't allowed to grow because we keep feeding the same thing. We're just comfortable going to the same supermarket, walking down the same aisle, grabbing the same items off the shelf without thinking, and going back home and getting back to our TV shows. Anyway, there's talk about merging with artificial intelligence because it's going to be great and grand and it's going to crush us like bugs, and so we have to merge with it. There's one world government coming, there's one world currency, there's all these orchestrated events. The fact that everybody's being tracked, there's nanotechnology in our bodies, they're spraying all these chemicals in the air, they're changing the atmosphere, they're playing with the weather. Look at HARP projects. I mean, everything that I'm talking about is something valid and something that can be researched and found, and you will know that it's true, and I'm not joking, I'm not making any of this up. They're selling our information, they're infiltrating our homes with spy technology that we call Google Home or Alexa or whatever we give nice names to. There's a constant monitoring and data collection. They want to connect everything to the internet with the Internet of Things. I mean, go look it up, I'm not kidding. There's a merger of porn and movies. There's a watering down of values. There's sudden deaths of massive numbers of species, right? What could that be? I wonder. Unforeseen extreme new number of natural catastrophes. Love has turned into lust, right? There's a system to funnel money upwards, control of all resources, illusion of choosing a leader, right? When we don't even have a choice, we just have to pick between 10 horrible people that don't give a fuck about us. When at the end of the day, those people have to be servants of society because their job is to serve society's better good. Right, because we can't all get together on one Friday night and decide on laws and decide on what's better for all of us. So we elect people to do that for us. But those motherfuckers don't do their jobs. We keep in their positions, although we're paying them with our tax money, right, to do that job. But they don't give a single fuck. And all they do is take money from us and more of it and more of it and further destroy us. Good job. Yep, plastics, aluminum, toxic things to mankind, electromagnetic radiation, right? Enriched flour in food. There's literally iron shavings in our cereal. There's unnatural ingredients in our food. The list goes on. But anyway. Having seen all of this, I'm like, okay, well, there's obviously some sort of great force at play. Mankind is not that smart, and although all of these things seem to be separate, I truly believe and I know that they come from a single source. There's a directive, there's a group, a person, an entity, a force, a doctrine, whatever you want to call it. There's something that is guiding and directing all of these movements and all across the borders of our society. I mean, in all of the realms, in all of the industries, in all areas of societies, families are breaking up. It's really sad to watch. And how the fuck did we get here? Like, that is a question I'd like for somebody to answer. How did we get here? How did we allow all of this to take place? How is this even possible?
Because the only truth you know is what you get over this tube. Right now, there is an entire generation that never knew anything that didn't come out of this tube. This tube is the gospel, the ultimate revelation. This tube can make or break presidents, popes, prime ministers. This tube is the most awesome goddamn force in the whole godless world. And woe is us if it ever falls into the hands of the wrong people. And when the 12th largest company in the world controls the most awesome goddamn propaganda force in the whole godless world, who knows what shit will be peddled for truth on this network. But man, you're never going to get any truth from us. We'll tell you anything you want to hear. We lie like hell. We'll tell you that Kojak always gets the killer and that nobody ever gets cancer in Archie Bunker's house. And no matter how much trouble the hero is in, don't worry, just look at your watch. At the end of the hour, he's going to win. We'll tell you any shit you want to hear. We deal in illusions, man. None of it is true. But you people sit there day after day, night after night, all ages, colors, creeds. We're all you know. You're beginning to believe the illusions we're spinning here. You're beginning to think that the tube is reality and that your own lives are unreal. You do whatever the tube tells you. You dress like the tube. You eat like the tube. You raise your children like the tube. You even think like the tube. This is mass madness, you maniacs. In God's name, you people are the real thing. We are the illusion. So turn off your television sets. Turn them off now. Turn them off right now. Turn them off and leave them off.
Do you recognize how magnificent human beings are? Do you know when God tells you that He's created you in His image and likeness, what He means by that? You step on the tail of a dog, it'll be hurt, it'll feel the pain, it'll run away. What I'm trying to say is that all living organisms are aware of their surroundings, right? They know they can move in certain directions, they seek food, they feel things, right? They can get killed. An ant would run away from your finger if you're trying to crush it. I mean, living organisms are aware, right? But human beings have an extra layer of awareness that makes them aware that they are aware, and so they are aware that they exist, and that's why we question why we exist, and we look for this purpose, and we try to find God. So that's what God means, that He's created you in His image and likeness, that He's put this extra layer of awareness that other living organisms don't have, that allows you to go to a tree, break off a tree branch, and just shave it off and create a weapon out of it, or turn it into a raft and go sailing, or go fishing, or turn it into a house and protect yourself from the elements. I mean, that allows you to be creative, and that comes from the word creator, to create. Our Creator has created us in His own image and likeness, which is creative. So God is magnificent. He's given us a magnificent opportunity. This life, honestly, can be tremendously beautiful. And
so long as men die, liberty will never perish. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines. You are not cattle. You are men. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. Let us use that power.
We're so stuck following the devil. We're so stuck looking at easy ways out and shortcuts to escape our physical bondages, right? That are not even bondages. I mean, we're just given so much to play with, and yet we want to play God. Like, come on, people. Come the fuck on. You have love in your hearts. You have an imagination. You have a consciousness. You have the ability to empathize with other people, to feel their emotions, to connect. I mean, what are the most beautiful moments of your life? You know? Are they sharing moments with other people? Are they a kiss, losing your virginity? Like, what are the most beautiful moments of your life? You know, what do they revolve around? They revolve around an experience that involves other people. Most of the time it's involving other people. It's because we're social creatures, right? Yet we're turning into individualistic beasts. Anyway, long story short, I went into all these things, all these occult doctrines and spiritual movements and whatnot, and then I came to the belief that there are two main doctrines, there are two main ideas. One idea is that there is no good and evil, that there's balance needs to be in order for us to exist, that we are just another species existing on just another planet in this intergalactic universe of consciousness that manifests into a physical form, and that we are evolving, and that we have entities in planets around us that are rooting for our success and our evolution, and hoping that we don't destroy ourselves because we're in such a early stage of our evolution and existence. And that, yeah, aliens are real. They're just not revealing themselves because they want us to evolve organically. They're just in the background making sure that we don't kill ourselves. They're responsible for all these nuclear detonations not going off. I mean, they're just trying to help us out. Blah, 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 blah. And then there's the other situation where Jesus is real, and God is the Father, and there's the Holy Spirit, and that all these things that they teach us, right, all this knowledge that is being taught to us is of the devil. And the devil's greatest trick is to make you believe that he doesn't exist. Now, when I came down to these two conclusions, I had questions, right? Of course, because I can't just accept one of the two without questioning either or their validity. And so the questions were, if aliens are real, and so are we, who created the aliens, and who created the planets on which they exist? Now, let's say that they came and they manipulated genes within one of the species that existed on Earth and gave consciousness to apes. Let's just say that's the case, right? And we were born, mankind is born. Who did the same to them, right? There's a chain. There's always a chain. Who's at the top of the chain? Who created aliens if they claim to come and create us? And not only that, why do aliens always talk about Jesus Christ not being real? Why is there always such an emphasis? Why don't they come and give us the solution to world hunger, the solution to turning salt water into fresh water, the solution to all or any of our major problems of civilization, right? They just come and they tell us that they're real. They tell us that Jesus Christ is not real, and there's always an attack. I'm like, well, that's kind of fishy. That's really weird, to be very honest with you. Now, other than that, why do they need technology if they are gods, right? If they are so evolved, why can't they just blink? If they use their consciousness like they teach us, they use their consciousness to create matter or to manipulate matter, and if the superstructure is responsible for the infrastructure, then they can just think something and it would come true. They don't have to physically do it or work at it or do any of this stuff. Yet they travel here with their spacecrafts that are made of metal and technology, and that use the elements of existence and the physics in order to travel around and do whatever they want to do. So they are confined to a physical reality too. Interesting. Okay. If they are connected to the ancient times and they're the ones that gave that information to ancient Egyptians and Aztecs and etc., and God was upset and came and wiped them away, right? They can't be that grand, they can't be that evolved and be wiped away so easily. Like, they would be able to fight off any enemy that would come. Yet they were just completely disappeared. So many of them, and not just 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 parts of the world, in so many parts of the world. Magnificent structures, just inexplicable ways of life and sophistication in society and advancement that we cannot even replicate today. And you tell me that they just vanished? Really? So what if they were fallen angels coming here under the guise of star people to deceive us and to corrupt us and to claim our souls before Jesus Christ comes back? Okay, so I started having all these thoughts and I was like, that can't be the truth. There's no way. Like, that is so far out there. But everything is an option when you're trying to be objective. And so I was like, okay, well, I've reached out to every major entity or force that claims to know or create this life, and let me try to reach out to God and ask about Jesus. So I reached out. Now, before I tell you that, let me tell you real quick. There was this one time I was listening to Cryon, which was the magnetic master of this earth, right? Talking about how they seeded this life, how we're evolving, blah, blah, blah. So Cryon, that entity, was saying things that were making me very hopeful, and having been in sales for so long and just part of my intuition, I guess, guided me at that time. I felt like it was trying to deceive me. I felt like it was trying to trick me. And so I really genuinely wanted to find out, and it was from the bottom of my heart, and I just looked up while I was in traffic, and I cried out to God, and I was like, God, please, if this is trying to deceive me, please let me know. I do not want to be deceived. And as soon as I put my head back down to drive, because the light had turned green, a car comes rushing from next to me, and it slams into the car right in front of me, and they both go off flying right in front of my face right after I asked that question. I was like, damn. And at that time, to be very honest with you, I was too deceived to be able to interpret or understand or let alone accept that message. And I interpreted it as there is no light and dark. I checked on both of these people, none of them died, so it's okay. It was just a big, big sign from the universe telling me that it's okay to continue down this path, because I was productive. It was so, it sucked me in so hard, and it just gave me so much false hope and momentary joy, although it was making me miserable. Anyway, so after having come to both of those conclusions, like I said, I reached out to Jesus and I asked him, I was like, please, you know what I've been through. You understand what it is that I'm trying to understand and figure out. If you really want me to know the truth, please, I beg you to reveal yourself to me, to let me know, to send me a sign, to do something, because I am in dire need of you. If you are real, I need you to prove yourself to me. And you know how I am, you know my heart if you are God, and you would know that my mind is a devil's advocate, and I try to be as objective as possible, and I try to rationalize whatever would come my way. And so I really need you to hit me hard with some signs, with some facts, with something. You know what I need. Please make me understand if you are real. And I did not only receive signs, I didn't only have random people come to me, give me Bibles the next day, I didn't have I didn't only have coworkers come to me and tell me, hey Johnny, I dreamt about you with Jesus' beating heart on your chest. I dreamt that you are talking to God on a mountain. A client comes to my job and he gives me a coin with a cross engraved in it and words from the Bible. A random person shows up in my backyard coming to visit my roommate, and he sits right next to me, and I didn't ask him, and he starts talking about his life story and how he ended up in prison. He was crying on the bathroom floor, and he called out to Jesus, and he came and saved him. I mean, it really was a magnificent experience, and he came at me with so many synchronicities that could not be by mistake, right? They were by design, like they were meant for me. They were numerous. They were so many, and he kept hitting me and hitting me and hitting me until I had no choice but to believe it. I mean, there was no option. There was absolutely no option. And he's real, guys. And not only is he real, he has showed me multiple times that we really are near the end. He showed me in a lot of dreams. He showed me in just when I ask and I open the Bible and it goes to talks about the end and Revelations and the dragon and the lady and all these different things. And I might make him another video about that, but please spend your time getting to know God. We might not have much left of it. And so if you are deceived, then you will take the mark of the beast and your soul will be stolen forever and you will cease to exist and probably will be forever tortured if you don't worship the real God. And so my invitation to you would be to ask him, to reach out, to challenge him, of course, with all of your heart. Don't have an attitude, and just let him surprise you. He will come through. He will show himself. He will heal you. And the reason why I say do it now and don't wait another second is because the healing process, the getting to know God, everything is not going to be a flip of a switch, right? It's not going to be instantaneous. It's going to take time. And we don't have much of that left. And so please save yourselves as much as possible and spread this message if you can, because it really is important for anybody who is into spirituality, for anybody who's an atheist, for anybody who's given up on trying to figure this out, for anybody who you think is deceived or equally or more deceived than you are. Please share this message. Maybe reach out to me if you want to. I'd be more than willing to expand on anything that I had said, because there's a lot of information I kept out. We're nearing an hour already of talking, and so that's already way beyond what I think the time limit should be for this. I might make another video about all the signs that I've received about the end being near, like I said, but please, this message is very important. I have nothing to gain from you listening to this, from you believing in Jesus. I mean, it really He's the only one who's not trying to deceive you. He's the only one who's actually trying to save you and who still loves you and who would still forgive you regardless of anything and everything you've done. And if you are in the Freemasonry movement and you think that you've sold your soul to the devil, if you've done so many different things, trust me, he makes you believe that you've sold your soul, but you haven't. You can't. Your soul doesn't belong to you, and the other one can't take it. Jesus will do what he wants with your soul when the day of judgment comes. But you still have a chance. We still are alive. Things are still... The storm is nearing. And before it's here, we still have a chance to repent, to change, to truly be sorry, to really turn to God, to really ask him to really become his children, to really do his work, to save ourselves. And so please don't take this lightly. If you've stumbled upon this, just know that it was meant to find you. Help other people find it too. Don't be ashamed of what you believe. Stand strong, stand firm. And God bless you all and help us all, and take care.
I think it is highly beneficial
to have some 20 million Americans regularly sit in on these conferences, to observe, if I may say so, the incisive, the intelligent, and the courteous qualities displayed by your Washington correspondents. Nor, finally, are these remarks intended to examine the proper degree of privacy which the press should allow to any president and his family. If, in the last few months, your White House reporters and photographers have been attending church services with regularity, that has surely done them no harm. This deadly challenge imposes upon our society two requirements of direct concern, both to the press and to the president. Two requirements that may seem almost contradictory in tone, but which must be reconciled and fulfilled if we are to meet this national peril. I refer first to the need for far greater public information, and second, to the need for far greater official secrecy. The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. Our way of life is under attack. Those who make themselves our enemy are advancing around the globe. The survival of our friends is in danger, and yet no war has been declared. No borders have been crossed by marching troops. No missiles have been fired. If the press is awaiting a declaration of war before it imposes the self-discipline of combat conditions, then I can only say that no war ever posed a greater threat to our security. If you are awaiting a finding of clear and present danger, then I can only say that the danger has never been more clear, and its presence has never been more imminent. It requires a change in outlook, a change in tactics, a change in missions by the government, by the people, by every businessman or labor leader, and by every newspaper. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed.
We have been compelled to create a permanent armaments industry of vast proportions. How to do this? 3.5 million men and women are directly engaged in the defense establishment. We annually spend on military security alone more than the net income of all United States corporations. Now, this conjunction of an immense military establishment and a large arms industry is new in the American experience.
The total influence, economic, political, even spiritual, is felt in every city, every state house, every office of the federal government. We recognize the imperative need for this development, yet we must not fail to comprehend its grave implications. Our toil, resources, and livelihood are all involved. So is the very structure of our society. In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.